Ready? I'd like to reconvene the regularly scheduled Board of Education meeting. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hollinshead,
Here.
Mr. Lara,
Here.
Ms. Cabral,
Present.
Mr. Valencia is absent this evening, Mrs. Cordero.
Present. Report out from closed session. We had 4 items, A, B, C, and D, which I identified at the opening of our meeting. Information was shared on each of those items. No decisions were made. Our interpreters tonight are that's the pledge and stuff, but our interpreters are, okay, I'm sorry.
Sir.
Benito Flores and Manuel Rios Victoria. The greeter and support this evening was provided by Benji Alfaro. The Pledge of Allegiance this evening and our inspiration will be led by Rice students, Ilea, and I know I pronounced that wrong, Sanchez, and Jacob Rodriguez Valdez. Rice School. Aha.
Are they doing it? Right. I think Brian's taking care of it.
I think we're supposed to talk into that. I think I'm supposed to.
They're ready. Tell them to please stand.
Please stand.
Flags back here.
You go. Put your hand over your heart and pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may see.
All right, here we go. That's it. Just, if you're wearing a hat, please pull your hood or your hat off, and we're going to start with the Star Spangled Banner. See how far we go. 1. Oh, Isaiah, tell them again. Wow. Oh, I'm sorry, we were using the microphone.
Welcome, everyone. We are Lava. Please enjoy the show.
I'm Mr. Bigger.
All right. Start Spangled Banner. Okay. Okay, folks, we have a special song, this one for all of you. We need you to sing along with us, board members. You know the words. All right, let's see you go. Let's nail this. 1, 2. Rubber bands. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. That's the good one. Have fun. 1, 2. I'm sweating, man. That's all right. Oh, that would You guys are great.
And it's people, it doesn't make them compete with each other. It makes the love of the, you know, whatever the instrument.
I bring them along, so. Mr.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
We even have a fifth grader that comes back and when we shows in town, they come back and they help them. It's phenomenal. That's crazy. I'm not the teacher. I just sit back and let them know. Thank you guys. Thank you.
Looks like we went to a concert, the board meeting broke out. How long have you been here? 3 months? That was so good. Yeah, and I was all this time. I did. I love it. I'm really glad it's. That's yours too? Thank you, guys. And I know your parents. We wouldn't want you to.
Just one quick thing I want to say is, Mr. Bigger has the best parents in Santa Maria Bonita.
Thank you, parents. Thank you, parents, for being here.
You better felt it. I tried to beat you, but you
Thank you,
hot
parents.
that I
Do
melted.
that in home for
Fell
you.
right through the cracks. I'm trying to get back. Before the cool done run out, I'll be giving it my best. There's nothing's gonna stop me but divine intervention. I reckon it's again my turn to win some or learn some, but I won't hesitate no more, no more. It cannot wait. I'm yours. Well, open up your mind and see like me. Open up your plans and damn, you're free. I look into your heart and you will find love, 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 love. Listen to the music of the moment, people dance.
And thank you to Mr. Bigger and to the students
And it's our God-forsaken right
for
to be
getting
loved.
us warmed up. For sure, as long as I've known Mr. Bigger, arts have been alive in his classroom. So thank you.
He was, you know, he reminded me a lot of Doug Smee and how Doug Smee used to just get fully engrossed in his kids. And I was commenting to Cameron, one of the young ladies in the front. I saw her kind of get a little frustrated but not give up and get back in and go. And a couple of them, I just make an example of her, but she just, and they said they practiced that for one said 3 weeks, one said 3 months, but the sheer volume and length and duration of that was super, super impressive. And his dedication, as well as the parents' dedication to helping those guys, and a number of them very proud that they now have their own ukuleles, and you could see that they were custom. There was the Firefly pick there that was
Yeah.
keeping my attention too, as
That was
As
pretty
well.
fascinating, pretty fascinating.
it was well done.
So it's got our hearts pumping. So taking a deep breath, public comment period, open session. The public comments are intended for members of the public to address the Board of Education on items involving the school district. Such testimony shall be limited to 3 minutes each. or 450 words per person per subject, and 15 minutes total for each topic. If an answer to a specific question is requested, the board president will, if appropriate, direct administration to respond in writing. A reminder to our speakers and presenters, please be mindful when speaking at the podium, not to speak too quickly so that our interpreters are able to translate and interpret accurately and to keep pace for our Spanish and mixed speaking audience. Do we have any non-agenda item public comments this evening?
Yes, we do. And so what I'm going to do is have call names for folks to come up for public comment. And if you can just line up so we can kind of quickly go through each of those. Jose Rodriguez. After that would be Luke Laurie. Alicia Sage. Joel Kringle. Jerry Gash. I'm just going to call all El Camino staff here. Larissa Hassel. Did I say that right, Larissa? Hassel and Stasia, or Astasia Zarling, sorry. I want to call you Stasia.
Okay, thank you. Awesome. Yeah, that's a tough act to follow. So anyway, thank you. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Jose Rodriguez, and I'm a U.S. history teacher. I've worked at El Camino Junior High for 20 years. It's like my home away from home, and my colleagues, they're like family to me. Last week at our staff meeting, we looked at the dashboard data, specifically the suspension category. We were stunned to see that we had moved into the yellow category. We did not receive this as good news. The data simply showed that we were not suspending enough. I understand that there's a conversation about suspensions and the so-called prison to pipeline, but let me be clear. Another pipeline to prison is not providing any consequences at all. Our students are gritty, and gentle parenting in school is not an adequate way to discipline. Every day, there's at least one fight on campus, if not more. Just today, there was a trail of blood in the hallway leading to the office. On numerous occasions, I've stepped outside my classroom door and stumbled into a brawl, wondering if one of the students would punch me in the face as I tried to break them up. It's not an unreasonable concern because earlier this year, a student shoulder checked me in the hallway. I did request that a police report be filed, but I do regret not pressing charges. The students are increasingly hostile, willing to intimidate even teachers and staff, be defiant, or simply just walk out of the classroom. The fighting is so bad that we're hiding students in classrooms at break and lunch for their safety. Twice this year, I've had to usher a student into my room so they could escape another student looking to jump them. The first time, I had to physically block my door and shout at the other student to go away. The second time, a couple weeks ago, a student ran into my classroom with a bloody nose because another student punched her in the face. It's just not safe. I'm pleading with the board, with you, Superintendent McDuffie, please help us. You can support our staff and our students by requesting a school resource officer from the police department. I know that some may have a political or ideological objection to having school resource officers on campus, but we are beyond abstract debates. We need concrete action and support. We also believe that it's time for SMBSD to build a continuation school, something like Fitzgerald. We have students who are simply not capable of learning in a regular classroom setting, and they are impeding the learning of the many students like we just had here. These other students are impeding the learning of these kinds of students who want a better future for themselves, and we need all your support. So thank you for your time.
Distinguished members of the board, my name is Luke Laurie. I am a resident of Santa Maria, a constituent, a parent of 2 children who attended our schools, and I've been a science teacher at El Camino Junior High for 27 years. It saddens me greatly to bear witness to the decline of a school that was, not so long ago, a venerated institution. El Camino was once a sanctuary of stability in an unstable world, but it has become a chaotic battleground where mixed messages and ineffective disciplinary consequences have stoked the fires of violence instead of extinguishing them. My daughter attended El Camino 7 years ago. I would not allow my child to attend El Camino today. In my first 25 years of teaching, I broke up 3 fights. These were traumatic and frightening events. In just the past 2 years, I've had to step in and respond to more than a dozen violent altercations. Violence and the threat of violence are now present in every moment. The lack of respect for authority and brazen disregard for norms corrupt every aspect of our school's climate. I can assure you that the high schools are not ready for what is coming. We have normalized violence. I have 3 recommendations for action. 1, one-day suspensions are not enough. These do not serve as a meaningful deterrent to violent behaviors, and they don't give us time to prepare for the next event. We need to prioritize the right of victims and potential victims over the rights of bullies and violent actors. We've had many students who have had to be placed in safe rooms during breaks and lunches to protect them from potential assailants who patrol the yard freely with their allies. And 3, we need to be a fully staffed school. We've gone the entire year with 2 counseling positions unfilled and several teaching positions unfilled or partially unfilled, and countless shortages of substitutes and support staff. Recruiting has been inadequate and too late. We need to prioritize filling classroom positions over filling TOSA positions. We can never ensure a stable school environment until we have stable employment. Please continue to monitor the situation at El Camino. This cannot be the new normal. Our community deserves better.
Good evening, members of the board. I am Alicia Sage, and I teach 8th grade English and 7th grade Avid at El Camino. I began in this district in 2016 as a student teacher and have taught here ever since. The violence at our school is a spreading plague. We had multiple fights today alone. I had 1 meeting with admin rescheduled due to a fight, and the school site council meeting was rescheduled several times due to emergencies. Our school is on fire with only small cups to put it out. California's Right to Safe Schools law states all students and staff of primary, elementary, junior high, and high schools have the inalienable right to attend campuses that are safe, secure, and peaceful. Our campus is none of those things. Teachers and students alike are stressed out and constantly on edge. This often makes classrooms unmanageable and students disengaged. I propose the following solutions. Security and supervision at our schools requires more people, as well as retaining those who work hard to keep students safe. The district must pay all aides, substitutes, and security more while also providing benefits. So these positions are desirable and worth the effort. 2, in-school suspension requires more than one staff member, as well as staff members who are experienced with troubled youth. Instead of keeping students hidden away, have them do community service, learn new ways to express their emotions, and build understanding of the ramifications of their actions. The inconsistent, inadequate, and sometimes non-existent discipline practices must be restructured. 3, finally, leadership needs to focus on legitimate issues it cites. I'm not sure I want to be a teacher anymore because of the focus on petty details instead of disastrous fights and structurally oppressive school systems. I urge the board and district leaders to fight the status quo and take meaningful action. Thank you.
Thank you, board members, and thank you, district leaders. You who have the awesome power given to you by the people to do something about injustice. I'd like to talk about just that, justice and fairness. My name is Joel Kringle, and I have been an 8th grade teacher at my beloved El Camino Junior High School for 29 years. Just want to add, my son also went to El Camino, and sadly, I would never have him come right now at this present situation. Please imagine this situation right here tonight. Imagine at this meeting, some audience members started talking loudly or laughing at your request to be quiet. Imagine that you can't even remove these disruptors to hold an orderly meeting. I beg you to believe me that this scenario is no exaggeration. It happens in my and other classes literally every day. It has nothing to do with the teacher's classroom management skills. I've been teaching here for 29 years and have never had to deal with the amount of disruptions, outright anger, bullying, and disrespect that I now deal with daily. The fights we see in the halls extend to disruptions in the classroom. I beg you to try to imagine the stress and harassment we teachers feel. I beg you to really hear us and to help. It is our sacred duty to ensure that schools are safe and that classrooms are orderly so students can focus. At El Camino, we have such amazing students. I refuse to go along with anybody who accepts bad behavior as the new normal, who suggests that we have to accept lower standards. I'm going to advocate fiercely the rest of my teaching years for these amazing kids who are losing out on peaceful, orderly classrooms because of a few who need extra help in an alternative classroom where they could not steal the education of students ready to learn. But what can we do? I keep on hearing. For starters, let's not throw our hands up and say, that's something we just have to put up with because of El Camino's neighborhood and these new state laws, like I keep hearing from so many educational leaders. As someone who works at one of the most disadvantaged schools in our city, I'm tired of the suggestion that disadvantaged students and their hardworking parents just need to accept bullying and disruptions in school because of inclusion. Inclusion, if done right, is wonderful. But inclusion was never meant to mean that we accommodate disruption, that we tolerate students who day after day don't let us teach, that we accept bullying, that we accept stressed out teachers. But that is exactly what is happening. At El Camino, we desperately need an extended opportunity class that allows more than the measly 10 students and ends after 5 periods. When we have a student who constantly bullies and disrupts, we teachers need to not be told, don't send any students to the office. We need to educate parents about the dangers of cell phones. We need to always have space at an alternative school for students who bully and disrupt daily, so they can get the help. and counseling that they need and not prevent eager students from learning. It all boils down to a dogged determination from you and all of us that we have safe campuses and orderly classrooms and high standards for behavior. Please, if I could just have one more word, all the El Camino teachers here tonight and myself would be so happy if any of you contact us if you want to join our determined campaign to keep El Camino orderly. Thank you so much.
Good evening. My name is Jerry Gash, and I'm a special day math teacher at El Camino Junior High School. After teaching 13 years in Los Angeles, I moved here and have been teaching at El Camino for almost 8 years. I've never spoken at a board meeting before, and I never thought I would, but events of late really give me no choice. After my first year of teaching at El Camino, I thought I would retire at this school because I loved it so much. Today, I'm reconsidering. I never thought I would see my beloved school descend into the utter chaos it is in today. I no longer feel safe at my school, and I'm very worried about the safety of students and staff. Since the beginning of the school year, I've witnessed countless fights on campus. There's a fight almost every day now. They happen during classes, passing time, at break, at lunch, before school, and after school. People get hurt on a daily basis. And it's not just the students who get hurt. In the last 6 months, 3 female teachers at El Camino have been punched in the face by students. 3 teachers. Have you ever heard of that happening anywhere in one school year? I haven't, and it shouldn't be happening. In addition to all the fights, I've noticed a precipitous decline in student conduct and student buy-in. In years past, almost any student on the blacktop would be responsive to staff directives to pick up their trash or disperse when they're in large groups. Now, I see students walking away from classified staff, teachers, and administrators, ignoring directives, and even cussing at adults. In addition to this, innocent students that witness these fights enter the class so affected by what they just witnessed that they have difficulty focusing on their classwork. Most students just want to come to school and learn, and they can't because of all the violence. Something has happened at El Camino, and it's really sad. I've seen too much blood, too many concussions, and too many other injuries. It's taking a toll on the mental health of our school community. For my own personal safety and mental well-being, I've decided to look elsewhere within this district to teach. Unless something drastically changes in the next few weeks, I plan to transfer to a safer site. I don't know what the solution is, but I hope bringing this to your attention will spur district action. Please help us. We need help. We need help. We need help.
Good evening. My name is Larissa Hossel, and I teach science at El Camino Junior High. I've been teaching for 6 years, and this is my first year in the district. Today, I had a fight in my classroom. Students were arguing with each other, shoving each other inches away from students who were seated and ready to learn. These students would not listen to me or the aide in my classroom to separate, and so I made the decision to step in between them to physically separate them to protect other students nearby. Using my body, I was finally able to guide one student out of the room. This is the second fight in my class this year and one of many, many, many fights on campus. I often feel on edge in my classroom, especially when students are present who have been suspended multiple times for aggression and violence. What is most upsetting to me, however, is that many students, they do care about their education and they are fearful on campus. Or worse, they're desensitized. It hurts that I cannot promise them safety in my own classroom. They deserve to come to school and learn without disruption or fear of violence. Our campus urgently needs your help. We thank you for your time and your consideration.
Good evening. My name is Astasia Zarling, and I teach physical education at El Camino Junior High School. I have been with this district for 15 years, and I am a proud alumni and graduate of El Camino and Santa Maria Bonita School District schools. I'm speaking today to express a major concern about the safety of our students, staff, and our teachers. The level of violence, verbal outbursts, assaults, intimidation, and harassment amongst the students have been on a steady rise since last year. An example of the peak of violence was on October 24th, when there were 8 students that fought in one day. The majority of the fights and conflicts are amongst a small minority of students, but it has greatly affected the entire school. Teachers are having to deal with major behavior issues like students walking out of class, violent outbursts, students using offensive curse words. As a physical education teacher, I often have a front row seat for many of these major distractions outside. We have staff that have been injured, struck, cursed out while attempting to assist with breaking up fights, which leave many of our staff members fearful of getting involved. For several months of the school year, students were not being suspended for their first fight. This caused a false narrative that the first fight was, quote, free. What is a suspendable offense? How egregious does a fight have to be in order to, quote, get in trouble? How many times are students allowed to fight in a school year before being removed from the school? We are asked to voluntarily step outside our classrooms during passing periods, lunch, and breaks to convey an adult presence, but we are fearful of violent acts that we may need to intervene on. Putting ourselves at a physical risk is not a question that should be asked of us. One of the most heartbreaking things about the violence at our campus is the way that it has shifted the entire culture. The majority of our students are amazing, but we as teachers are often the safe haven for these students we have to use our classrooms, our gyms, our clubs to hide out and be away from the violence. This is not the culture of our school, and this is not the climate that we are known for at El Camino. My experience over the past year has been exhausting, stressful. The daily tension that is palpable on the blacktop is unsettling. Many of these problems can be addressed by bringing back the SRO, which is a school site resource officer, in order to have a police presence on our site and begin to build a sense of community. Another solution is to reevaluate the suspension policy in the district. There needs to be a more comprehensive behavioral policy for all the junior highs that address the major behaviors that students that cause violent outbursts or repeated assaults or fights. And finally, there needs to be a junior high specific parent education or communication program that clearly conveys the challenges of junior high life, such as cyberbullying, the consequences of social media and cell phones, and the repercussions of posting violent fights on social media. This is a serious cry for help at the junior high schools. Our students deserve a safe junior high school experience. I appreciate and I'm thankful for your time and your consideration. Thanks.
You have Kat.
I'm gonna mess this name up, Caratina? Did I say that correctly? Okay, Caratina Martinez?
Buenas tardes, mesa directiva. Bueno, después de escuchar todo esto que dijeron las demás personas, estoy un poco nerviosa. Pero mi situación es otra diferente. Mis niños asisten a la escuela Jiménez. Tengo un niño de 8º grado y uno de 6º grado y hasta ahorita es una escuela para mí excelente. Lo que yo vengo a pedirles es que en el área lo que es el patio, en el área del pasto, los niños salen a jugar. Hay muchos hoyos, mi niño, tengo un niño que se involucra mucho en el deporte, ahorita se inscribió en el fútbol, en el equipo de fútbol, y a cada rato me llega torcido del pie que se va en los hoyos. Entonces, yo siento que hay muchos topos, no se ha dado el tratamiento adecuado para que no haya tantos hoyos. Y en general, pues hablo porque ahí he comunicado con varias mamás, varios papás y me platican lo mismo. Entonces, pues les agradecería mucho que tomaran cartas en el asunto a quien corresponda. Muy amables y gracias.
Hello, my name is Carretina Martinez. After hearing, after hearing everything, I'm a little bit nervous for my kids as well. My kids attend Jimenez, an 8th grader and 6th grader. And until now, I feel that everything has been excellent. And what I'm asking for now is the grass area at the school. There's a lot of holes at that school. My son is now involved in sports. He's currently playing soccer. He's been getting home daily with his twisting his ankles, and I feel that there's no adequate treatment. And many of us parents are concerned about that. So I please ask you to do something regarding that. Thank you.
Okay, we have a topic. Ashley Brown, Mariel Buchema? Did I say that right? Buchema. Janae Rios and Jen Danowitz. And they're going to speak on one topic for 15 minutes.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Ashley Brown, and I serve as the Teacher Development TOSA within our district. It is with great respect and gratitude that I address you today alongside my colleagues of our TOSA team and site coaches. We have gathered this evening to engage in a discussion concerning the MOU for unfilled vacancies. Firstly, I wish to emphasize our deep appreciation for the invaluable contributions made by all educators in our district whose tireless efforts are dedicated to the progress and betterment of our students. Acknowledging the challenges posed by the substitute shortage and its repercussions on our system, we recognize the importance of addressing this matter. However, we believe it is imperative to examine the current MOU critically. From its reinstatement this school year to the observed absence of subsequent follow-up and accountability measures, concerns have risen regarding the treatment of coaches and TOSAs within our organizational structure. We are compelled to convey that the current framework appears to inadvertently marginalize and undervalue the roles of coaches and TOSAs, creating a perception of expendability. Therefore, our intention this evening is not only to clarify the nature of our roles and the significant impact we have on both students and educators, but also seek clarification and address inquiries pertaining to the current MOU. Your consideration of these matters is deeply appreciated, and we look forward to a constructive dialogue aimed at fostering a supportive and equitable environment for all members of our educational community. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Mariel Buchema, and for nearly 3 years, I've had the privilege of serving as a STEAM literacy teacher on special assignment with an incredible team of TOSAs. Today, I'm honored to share with you the invaluable and often misunderstood work we do alongside our fellow teachers, the ELD, and instructional coaches. Together, we represent all district initiatives providing essential support and guidance across a multitude of crucial areas and subgroups. While I wish I had enough time to delve into all the projects our team is undertaking, past TOSA staff meetings where we've shared our work have shown me that it would take at least 30 minutes to cover everything. With that in mind, my description is an overview, but please note there is so much more to our work. First and foremost, TOSAs offer district-level implementation support for major programs and curriculum adoptions. Currently, many of us are supporting the multi-year implementation of 2 new math curriculums, the Growing Letters Learning, Universal TK, and more. As TOSAs, we aim to provide personalized professional learning, alignment with district goals, and ongoing support for educators. Moreover, TOSAs provide continuous curriculum and assessment support in core subjects through coaching cycles, professional development, and simply being an email or a phone call away. We empower teachers with resources, best practices, and tailored support to enhance instructional effectiveness and student learning outcomes. As liaisons between teachers and the district office, TOSAs facilitate communication, collaboration, and feedback loops through advisory teams, department chair meetings, classroom visits, and one-on-one communication. We also serve as vital contact points for our current curriculum companies, ensuring that instructional materials and professional learning opportunities meet the needs of our diverse teachers and student populations. Furthermore, TOSAs coordinate supplemental programs such as robotics, after-school sports, and visual and performing art experiences, enriching student experiences beyond the traditional classroom setting. In conclusion, TOSAs are instrumental in driving educational excellence, fostering collaboration, and supporting the holistic development of our teachers and students. Our dedication, expertise, and tireless efforts make a profound impact on the success of our schools and the well-being of the SMBSD community. Thank you for your attention and support of the TOSA team.
Good evening. My name is Janae Rios, and I'm an instructional coach at one of our sites at SMBSD. The SMBSD instructional and ELD coach focus on student-centered approach to coaching. This involves collaborating with teachers to identify student learning goals, analyzing student data to inform instruction, co-planning and co-teaching lessons, providing targeted feedback on teaching practices, and reflecting on student progress together. Instructional and ELD coaches prioritize the connection between teacher actions and student outcomes, aiming to improve student achievement through effective teaching practices and ongoing professional learning. Both TOSAs and coaches play a vital role in supporting the education of the whole child. When we think of the parameters in which our new district strategic plan outlines, we put forth the following questions concerning the MOU, the current MOU, for your consideration. When we think of the best interest of our children and their education, does the MOU provide for that? Number two, does singling out TOSAs and coaches as substitutes and limiting their ability to do their contracted job treat them with dignity and respect? Number three, does the cost of the MOU, both monetary and in manpower, practice responsible stewardship of all resources? Number four, from the beginning of this school year, when this MOU was re-signed, coaches and TOSAs did not have a voice in the evaluation of the previous MOU success and the changes in the current MOU. How does this show embracing, practicing, and modeling integrity? And finally, number five, if we will not compromise our commitment to excellence, then how does limiting the ability for coaches and TOSAs to coach, which yields positive student growth, meet this parameter? Thank you for your time.
Good evening, board members. My name is Jennifer Danowitz. I am the instructional coach at Arianas Junior High. I am fortunate to have the opportunity to engage in many different coaching cycles with teachers and students across different disciplines. I am able to witness the power that collaborative, student-centered coaching has on teacher practice and student learning outcomes. I am honored to share some of the coaching successes teachers and students have shared with me. Science teacher Asher Kleinsmith mentions that my presence helped those struggling with behavior to improve their outlook on academics. English teacher Addison Sage explained that I was able to gather and collect important data about the pre and post knowledge of our students. This knowledge has been instrumental in helping to show us what parts of the unit were effective and what still needs tuning. Judy Morris, a math teacher, says every day I see 75 to 80% of the class collaborating about the math being covered. And finally, Chris Felix, another math teacher, reflected that in the short time I have been in his classroom, his classes are more active and the students talk to each other more. Math students shared similar sentiments. Mrs. Danowitz has impacted my learning. She has patience with me, showing me step by step how to work out the problem without having to say the answer directly. Another explained, I like that you bring new ideas that let us experience situations that are different. And finally, one student commented on how the coaching process helped him raise his grade from failing to a C. I don't share these to be boastful. I share these because these testimonials represent the vital improvements to teaching and learning that coaches at all sites are making. Unfortunately, the same teachers who share these immense positive influences of coaching also share the hardships that the sub-problem is having on our work. The teachers mentioned above commented that, quote, her busy schedule prevented her from joining as frequently as both of us had hoped. This was largely out of her control, but it did affect the consistency of her presence in class. Another, scheduling and availability was definitely a challenge. Danowitz was pulled in many directions during our coaching period. And finally, it was not always possible for us to meet due to you being pulled to substitute for other teachers. The problem is district-wide. When coaches sub, teachers, and more importantly, students lose out. My fellow coaches, TOSAs, and I understand the gravity of the subbing issue. We know that subbing has been a necessary additional responsibility of our position, but we also know that the work that we're doing across all sites is invaluable to student learning. The MOU between the district and SMEA addressing unfilled vacancies states that the district will provide sites with resident subs. No resident subs have been hired. I urge you and the district to hire resident subs for the remaining of this school year and beyond so that all coaches across the district can focus on coaching. Any of the coaching team and TOSA team would be honored and happy to continue to discuss this further if you see fit. Thank you so much for your time this evening.
Those are all the comments on non-agenda items.
Are there comments on agenda items?
Yes, we have. Yes, we do. We have comments on agenda items.
And do we know if those speakers want to wait until that item has come up or speak now?
Is there any parent or community member, teacher who wants to speak on DLI right now or wait till the action item? Is it Mia? Is it Mia Sanchez? Okay. I have some that are blue here. So I'm gonna call your name, Mia Sanchez. Would you like to speak now or wait until the action item? Okay, Mia Sanchez.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Mia Sanchez and I have been going to Jimenez Elementary School for the past 9 years. I'm one of the first students to attend.
I think you need to turn the microphone on or move up.
Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry. Hi, good afternoon. My name is Mia Sanchez and I've been going to Jimenez Elementary for the past 9 years. I'm one of the first students to attend first dual language immersion class. This class has benefited me as I am now fluent in 2 languages, English and Spanish. Now I can communicate with my Spanish speaking family, including my grandparents. I've seen kids struggling or not knowing how to communicate with their grandparents and even some with their own parents. It makes me sad to know that some are unable to speak to their parents in their native language. As for the dual language immersion class, it has helped my classmates and I to not forget and practice our Spanish. In my family, my dad knows 3 languages fluently, my mom 2, and my grandparents 2, and so on. But if it weren't for the DLI program, my sister and I would have been the first generation to only know 1 language, which is English. How sad, right? And as for my family, not wanting me to forget my Spanish, they drove me for 9 years to attend Jimenez School and still are right now. Want to know why? Because school around my neighborhood, around where I live, there isn't a DLI school. Therefore, I want to thank Jimenez Elementary and the school board for giving me the opportunity to attend the DLI program, and I hope that in the future or other kids would get the same opportunities as me. Hopefully more schools hopefully in the future, Bonita School District offers more schools with the DLI program and Jimenez to be a whole dual life school. That's all, and thanks.
Thank you, Mia. Mia, would you feel comfortable saying that in Spanish so that the Spanish parents could understand? I know you were speaking really quickly, and I think that would really be really nice if you did. Would you feel comfortable with doing that? No pressure. No presión.
Puedo tratar. Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Mía Sánchez y fui a la escuela Jiménez por los últimos 9 años. Yo fui uno de los primeros estudiantes a atender la escuela, la la clase de español. Esta escuela me ha ayudado a a saber hablar el inglés y el español muy bien. Ahora puedo comunicar con mis abuelos, con mi familia, con mi familia que habla nomás español, como mis abuelos. He visto muchos niños que no sepan hablar su idioma con sus padres, cual me hace sentir muy mal. Pero estar en la escuela Jiménez o en la escuela de español me ha ayudado me ha ayudado y también a mis compañeros a que no nos olvide el idioma español. En mi familia, mi papá habla 3 lenguajes fluidos, mi mamá 2 y mi abuelos 2. Pero si no era para el programa de español, yo y mi hermana serían la primera generación en nomás hablar un lenguaje cual será inglés, cual será muy triste. Y por mi familia, y en mi familia, y como mi familia no quiere que se me olvide el español, me han manejado a la escuela por 9 años. ¿Sabes por qué? Porque donde vivimos no hay escuelas que tengan clases de español y, y um, uh, oh. Thank you.
Nice job, Mia. Is it Kael Duarte? Did I pronounce your name correctly? Kael? All right.
Hi, okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sky Duarte, and I'm here in favor of making Jimenez a full DLI school. As a student that has been in the dual language immersion program since kindergarten, I have been able to observe the benefits it has brought to me and my peers. Reinforcing both English and Spanish has given us phenomenal opportunities. Not only are we just a little effort away from biliteracy, but we are more capable of learning other languages, setting us up for even greater heights. When our students enter high school or even college, they will have an easier time overall because exposure to 2 languages will change their mindsets to, I know 2 languages, how can I not learn this? The 8th graders taking the AP Spanish test this year, which is usually taken in high school, will become even stronger speakers, readers, writers. Literacy in any language in the age of information is very important. On a personal level, this program has filled me with memorable experience of great advantages for my future, since I am currently in the process of learning Mandarin Chinese and Italian. This program has also helped me not to forget my identity as a Latino because I feel proud whenever I speak Spanish. Overall, I feel capable of conquering my future, as this program has given me so many advantages, and I would like other students to have the same opportunities as me in the future. Thank you.
Nice job, Phil. And we have another one on a blue card, Ramiro? Ramiro. They roll my R's.
Buenas noches a todos ustedes. Mi nombre es Ramiro. Como saben ustedes, mi primer idioma es el español. Mi niño está en el programa del DLI. Cuando recién mi niño se inscribió a este programa fue por medio de lotería. La primera ronda no la pudo hacer. La segunda fue un milagro, me dio mucho gusto. Cuando a mí me dieron la orientación del programa fue que esto iba a enriquecer a mi hijo a sobresalir y aprender el inglés apropiado y estructurado para poder sobresalir. Estoy de acuerdo, sí está tomando lugar, pero a mí me habían indicado que iba a haber 3 grupos de niños, unos puro habla español, unos por habla inglés y un grupo de bilingüe. Y esos 3 grupos se iban a juntar para poder aprender los 2 idiomas profesionalmente, adecuado y apropiado, y poderlo escribir y leer adecuadamente y académicamente. Sí está sucediendo, pienso que no está sucediendo al paso que tiene que ir, ¿verdad? Y tomar lugar. Ahorita están pidiendo, obviamente, opiniones para que esto expanda y sea más grande y se lleve a otros lugares. Pero yo digo que no podemos tomar el paso de expandir y hacer esto más disponible en otros lugares si el programa que inicialmente se inició no está a su potencial. ¿Ok? Yo quisiera que realmente indicaran y den los recursos o la estructura para que sea el español adecuado. Hay muchos factores que contribuyeron que obviamente haga un retraso a lo mejor, pero quisiera que hubiera más o menos, obviamente, de ir a tomar el próximo paso, enfocarnos en lo que está ahorita, no está, obviamente, trabajando al 100% a su potencial. ¿Ok? Entonces, una de las cosas que quisieran que se implementara y hubiera un enfoque. Los maestros también ocupan ayuda de los padres. Yo con mi hijo estoy involucrado en lo más que puedo en su educación. Ahorita son muy pocos padres los que estamos aquí, habiendo cientos de estudiantes en este programa. Y muchas veces se pierde información en traducción y invitación. Simplemente ahorita la traducción que se va a hacer de lo que yo estoy diciendo no se va a dar al 100%. ¿Ok? Entonces, si queremos una comunidad habla español o bilingüe, no lo estamos haciendo al 100%, pero no lo duda que lo pueden hacer. Ahorita, los niños, los estudiantes, les doy el agradezco que están dando su comentario, pero simplemente quisiera que pudieran haber dado su testimonio en español. ¿Ok? Que lo hicieron, pero se fijan que de todos modos hay campo para mejoramiento. Entonces, yo quisiera que obviamente si quieren invertir recursos y mejorar esto y expanderlo, necesitamos mucho trabajo que hacer. Yo como padre estoy para respaldar y ayudarles, porque a mí la primera prioridad es la superación de mi hijo, como todos los estudiantes que están aquí y los padres. Pero realmente los padres sabemos la capacidad de nuestros hijos y los padres somos los que tenemos que estar aquí para darles a saber a ustedes realmente lo que está pasando en este programa. Entonces yo sí les digo a todos los presentes que por favor hablen con otros padres y que nosotros los padres tenemos que enfocar y estar al pendiente de la educación de nuestros hijos. Obviamente tenemos que trabajar en equipo y darnos la mano uno a los otros, ¿ok? Muchísimas gracias. Hasta la próxima.
Good evening. My name is Ramiro. As you can tell, my first language is Spanish. My child attends Jimenez. He's also in the DLI program. My child was picked on the second pick of the lottery, and I can see there's a lot of benefits for my child to succeed. At the beginning, there were 3 groups in this program. The first one was Spanish only, and then English only, and then a bilingual class. And they teach reading and writing, but it's not adequate. It's not the pace that we want. And I know that right now you're asking for opinions, and I think we shouldn't proceed if the program itself isn't at its peak at this moment. Spanish should be taught in an adequate way. We should be focusing on the next step. Right now, we're not at 100%. We should implement and focus more on this program. And the teachers also need help from the parents. As you can tell, there's little parents in attendance, and there's a lot that gets lost in translation as well. So we do not receive 100%. And then this community cannot be 100% bilingual. As for the children that presented, I would have liked them to give their testimony in Spanish as well. But as you can see, we're not there yet. There's lots of work to do. As a parent, I can help. I can offer to help. I can help my students succeed. As parents, we all need to be here and help our children succeed. And then I think we need to keep working on this program, and need to focus and work as a teamwork. Thank you.
That's all we have right now. And I just want to say, Benito, you're doing an excellent job of translating and just excellent. Let's say.
Moving on to item 9, approval of the agenda as presented. Do we have any modifications or changes?
Yes, we do. We would like to put the action item C, DLI expansion program, at the top of the agenda for action items in front of A.
Is there a motion?
So moved. As amended.
And I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Hollins had moved with a second by Mr. Lara to approve the agenda as amended, moving action item C to the first position. So with that, do we have our presenters ready for item C? Oh, I'm so sorry. We need to vote on consent of the agenda.
Mr. Hollinshead,
Aye.
Mr. Lara,
Aye.
Ms. Cabral,
Aye.
Mrs. Cordero.
Aye. And before we skip to the action item, let's move to the consent agenda. Actions proposed on the consent agenda are consistent with adopted policies and approved practices of the district and are deemed routine in nature. They will be acted upon by roll call vote in one motion without discussion unless a member of the board requests an item be pulled from the consent agenda. Items pulled from the consent agenda will be voted on separately. May I have a motion to approve the consent item as presented?
I'll go ahead and motion for the consent items to be approved.
Second.
It has been moved by Ms. Cabral and seconded by Mr. Hollinshead to approve the consent agenda as presented. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hollinshead,
Aye.
Mr. Lara,
Aye.
Ms. Cabral,
Aye.
Mrs. Cordero.
Aye. Now we move to the action item. And action item C, which is the dual language immersion program. The expansion plan.
All right, and we have some public comments. We have three phone calls, and then we have one person speaking. So the first phone.
Good evening. This comment is in regards to the DLI expansion plan at Jimenez Elementary. First off, I would like to acknowledge the hard work and dedication of the DLI's task force. I recognize that this is a great program for the students of the Santa Maria Bonita School District, but I worry about the families that belong to the Jimenez boundary. It was communicated during a school meeting on February 15th that a proposal will be presented to the board to transition Jimenez School to an exclusive DLI school starting this upcoming academic year, 24-25. During the meeting, it was shared that the school would become a boundaryless school with the expansion of the DLI program. If this happens, it will displace future students that currently belong to the Jimenez school boundary, many who have siblings that are currently enrolled in the school's traditional English program. During the meeting, it was shared that incoming siblings of DLI program students will continue to have a guaranteed seat at the school, but siblings of students in the regular program would not. These students would need to enter a lottery to attend Jimenez school. I acknowledge that it is important for DLI families to have all of their students attend one school. However, I believe all families should have the same opportunity to have all of their children at the same school, even if the sibling is not currently in the DLI program, as long as the family is willing to enroll their new student in the DLI program. They should also be able to attend the same school as their sibling. Not providing the same opportunity to all Jimenez families is an injustice and a disservice to those students. As you may know, Jimenez is located in the middle of a neighborhood. The school is a 5 to 10 minute walk or bike ride for most students. Changing the boundary for future students will only cause impaction at another elementary school that will end up becoming the new home school for the current Jimenez boundary students. Also negatively impacting families and children, since it will cause disruption in the morning drop-off, afternoon pickup, and involvement in school activities when families will be required to enroll children in more than one school. I also acknowledge that the DLI program has many benefits to the community, and I ask the board to consider expanding the program in a different way by providing DLI at multiple elementary schools to truly make this program equitable and accessible to the families of the Santa Maria Bonita School District. This proposal does not negatively impact any current DLI student. It only impacts the families of the students in the traditional English program. I ask that you consider the implications that this will have for students and families. Thank you for your time and consideration on this significant matter.
Hello, my name is Hazel Davalos, and I am a parent at Jimenez School. I am commenting on the item around DLI expansion at Jimenez, and I want to voice full enthusiastic support. We've had a really, really wonderful experience so far with my daughter at the school, and really, really would like to see the opportunity made available to more families. It's an incredible privilege and just a huge gift to any students that get to go through the program. And so I really want to encourage the board to support this recommendation. And on another topic, I know the school has been, or the district has been looking at the issue of ethnic studies, and really want to voice support for that, and just continued support in making sure that that's supported in our district. Thank you.
This is a comment regarding the DLI expansion plan. I am in support of DLI, but I am opposed to making Jimenez School the only campus in the district that offers DLI. Based on the data gathered from the most recent school accountability report cards of all elementary schools in the district, it is evident that offering DLI only at Jimenez School is unintentionally limiting access to the program by students of disadvantaged socioeconomic backgrounds. 64.9% of Jimenez student body is from low-income background. This percentage is significantly smaller compared to all other elementary schools in the district. The majority of schools in the district's socioeconomically disadvantaged populations are 90% or higher. This is true for 10 out of the 17 schools. The remaining 6 schools, socioeconomically disadvantaged populations, are between 77 through 89.4%. When you take a look at the percentage of socioeconomically disadvantaged students across the district, it is obvious that the program is not accessible to students of these lower income households. When the DLI task force presents their data, the data will highlight that DLI students are outperforming their peers. But I want you to ask yourselves, are they truly outperforming their peers because they're in the DLI program? Or is it because DLI students at Jimenez come from higher economic backgrounds? Continuing to only provide DLI at one site is limiting access to low income. Expanding the program across multiple school sites in the district will allow more students of different backgrounds to have the opportunity to participate and access the benefits of the program. Thank you for your time.
We have Feliciano Aguilar.
That one? All right. And I think I had left, but otherwise I put him on the spot like Mr. Holland said, did with Mia to get him to do it in Spanish. He's just as impressive. I've heard of before. Good evening again. I'm a parent, a staff member, and about 12 years ago, I was here with a group of other people talking about this same very topic. So I'm glad to be back. I thought it was for me. It's okay. First, I want to just say that I fully support the expansion of the program. I think it'll be good for our community, but I also feel that there's more that we can do. And I think to this last person that we heard about is what does the other side of our community or other places, what can we do more, right? And so I've sent you a couple of articles that delineate the access to bilingual programs across our country and across our state. And that's at about 16%, right? And so right now our district stands at about 4%. So we're quite behind in that area. But it's not just about the DLI programs, it's about having other options, right? And so that's what I want to highlight today, that DLI is one option, but there's many other types of bilingual education that we can have in other areas of our community. Even if Jimenez fully expands, which would be 10 years from now, we're still going to be well behind where we need to be as far as offering this to our community. So in addition to the expansion, we need to look at these other options, right? So there's developmental programs, heritage programs, indigenous language programs, there's maintenance programs, transitional bilingual programs, and probably a few others that I can't remember at this moment. And these are formal programs, much like the DLI, but they have different parameters. And so these could be more suitable for some demographics depending on the areas of our city that we're looking at. And so I would like us to, in addition to expanding Jimenez, exploring those options as well. In addition to these formal programs, there's also less formal ways of maintaining and supporting our community's language resource, right? And this could be our after-school programs, Saturday school, even during the school day, right? Just like we have art, we have an art teacher going in and providing classes of art. We can have a language teacher for those that choose to take it to go and provide language classes within the school day. So this expands our ability to maintain and support the language. Again, these informal options are more of meant to supplement the formal programs. So just to end, I just want to say that reiterate that yes on the Jimenez expansion and no on waiting over 10 years to expand our programs even more. So I hope to be back much sooner this time again. And I thank you for your time and I appreciate what you're doing.
That's all the public comments we have.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Good evening, members of the board, Dr. McDaffie, cabinet, and audience.
Buenas noches, mesa directiva y todos los que están aquí esta noche.
My name is Margarita Mosqueda. I am the dual language program specialist, and I am back tonight to give you another update on our dual language task force. As you remember, in the year 2022-23, the board requested the expansion of the dual language. Right after that, a survey went out to the community inquiring their interest in having their child attend or be part of a dual language. As you can see, 97% of the community agreed that yes, we should have an expansion in the Santa Maria communities. And 96% said, yeah, if we have a dual language school at our site, I want my child to participate. And 81% said, well, if the program goes to a different site, I still want my child to be part of a dual language. So because of this overwhelming interest and request by the board, the dual language task force was created, made up of teachers, parents, school and site leadership. We've been doing extensive work working with California Association for Bilingual Education. We looked at research. And if I can have your attention, if you can look over here at this graph, Thomas and Collier. If I can bring your attention to all of those different numbers that it was mentioned a little earlier, they represent all of the different models that support our multilingual students in one way or another. But I also want you to pay attention and think about, although they might be beautiful colors, they represent the trajectory of education of 7 million students. These beautiful colors represent parent choice, and they can tell stories. So I'm gonna entertain you. So let's pretend, if we look at this graph over here, we're gonna pretend that I am in first grade. And if I can also get your attention to the broken line, the blue line, that line represents all of the monolingual students that are at the 50th percentile, and they are not participating in any of these other programs. So me, starting in the first grade, I had a 30% achievement gap. Luckily, my parents, they did a really great research, and they looked into all of these programs and decided they wanted me to be part of a two-way dual immersion. If you think about the two-way dual immersion surpasses all of the other programs. It's a gradual process. In order for any two-way or one-way dual immersion to succeed, they have to have all of the systems and structures in place. If I can also have your attention, if you can look at 5th grade, the two-way program closes the academic achievement gap. Again, if we go all the way to 11th grade, we surpass even our monolingual students. But we have to remember that when my parents did the research, this program really was a model program. The teachers had the access of how to help me not only see my history, my language as an asset base rather than the 30% deficit, according to research, right? But if you can see the surpassing of any other program, and then if you can also just look at the one-way, because I think it's also important to highlight on the one-way program. The one-way programs usually represent 90% of the students that are multilingual. So they're also closing the academic achievement gap when they have all the systems and structures in place.
One of the other things that we like to draw your attention to on a two-way program, it is a 90-10 model. So we expect our children to score low because when they start kinder first, 90% of their day is only in Spanish. These are English tests that we're comparing our students to. So we are expecting them to do that. And by the time they reach a 50-50 model, they're at grade level or surpassing their counterparts.
So this was the information that I was going to share with you. So if you look over here, this is just another way to see the two-way, but this one represents the 90-10 model, right? Because the previous graph, we're not sure if that was a 50-50% model and a two-way. So, but if you can see here, this one is a two-way, 90-10. And if you look by fifth grade, it also closes the academic achievement gap. So up to now, we had done intensive research, engaged in conversations with our task force, and we were pretty convinced that two-way dual immersion, after looking at other different models, was the best model to bring into our district. But we were wondering how our students were doing locally. How are they doing here at our district, the students that are in the dual language program? So this is how our kids are doing in the one strand at Jimenez School. So if I can get your attention, we're gonna be looking first at the reading graph. And this one represents, I'm gonna go from high to low. So if you can see, and this data represents the CASP summative results from 22-23. So if you can see, the groups represented are students that are in a dual language, part of the strand. That's the lighter blue. Next to the lighter blue are the students that are at Jimenez, but are not in the dual language. And then the darker blue is everybody else in the district. So if you can see going across, the dual language immersion students, they're doing significantly better in closing the academic achievement gap in reading. And if you look at the math, it also represents, right, from high to low. And again, we can see the same pattern. So after looking at a lot of the research, engaging in conversations, looking at district data, national data, having a good understanding of the different program models at the one strand versus a whole school, we didn't have a really well grasp. So we decided to engage with the community and engage with the staff. We wanted to know what are some of the benefits, but also what are some of the challenges, right, of having a whole school versus just being a one strand. And these were some of the comments that were shared by our community and as well as our staff. So I'm gonna read first some of the benefits. Valuing the target language, stability for staff and students, less movement for students and staff, encourage team support, have a bigger team and collaborate with, to have a strong identity of who they were as students, and school cohesiveness, and of course, more PLCs, focus, resources, etc. Some of the challenges being a strand, again, we can see not staying on the target language. A sense of division was shared not only by students, but also by parents. It was shared multiple times that students would always say those are the Spanish kids and those are the English kids. And the same feeling among parents. The lack of support, non-instructional staff, many times not being bilingual, competing for resources, and of course, having a strand, our dual language teachers and our English teachers can only collaborate with one other person. And there is different classroom size in the lower grades, the dual immersion classrooms are impacted. And lack of understanding of what is a dual language, even within the school, right? Not having that really grounding understanding of a dual language and the philosophy. So up to now, we engage with the community, continue doing our research. We wanted to do a school visit. So we went out to the Oxnard School District and visited a school in the Rio School District, a K-8 school, dual immersion. When we walked into this school, you can sense a sense of community, teamwork, and excellence. The Real School used to be one strand, and they had transitioned from one strand to a whole school. So they also shared with our group during our visit some of the same concerns. They shared when we were a one strand, our students did not value the Spanish because half of the other side were English speakers, and we know what happens. TB all day, they engage, they go to the playground, they rather engage in English, right? If my classmates on the other side are speaking English, I'm gonna turn around and do the same. When they transitioned from one strand to whole school, they were able to see an increase, not only on parent engagement, but also on the more focused PLC among teachers. And of course, that increase on student achievement. So up to now, we felt pretty confident, right? As a task force, we had identified successful and strong and sustainable characteristics of a dual language, of a two-way dual language. After all those doing all the research, tonight we are here to kindly make a recommendation for the expansion of the current DLI strand to a whole school. And the location, that would be Jimenez. One of the reasons, right, that we are thinking the location being at Jimenez, because we already have a strand. We already engage with our students and communities and staff. We know the feelings, we've seen the research. This doesn't mean that the program or the strand, if we bring this other half of the school to become dual language, it doesn't mean that can stay at Jimenez. It may very well transfer later to a different location. We also heard from the previous speaker that we want to offer a culture and classes at different sites across our district. We want to celebrate our students' identity. We want to embrace what they bring, not only to the classroom, but back to the community. Imagine if we were to have in the lower grades projects like baile folclórico, mariachi, music that is relevant to our student population. And I can think about the junior high. What about if they were to engage in project-based and social justice and critical consciousness projects? What about if they were to do a project like walking in the shoes of an immigrant, and they can go home and interview their parents and really understand their journey? We want to embrace their culture and language across our districts in the after-school program. So how does the transition look like? So I'm gonna be walking you through this transition. Right now, at Jimenez School, we have TK, 3 classrooms that are currently in English. Next year, those kids will go in Spanish. So if we look over here, what we are proposing is that in the 24-25 school year. Let me see, does it have a line to go there? Yeah.
Is it? I can't see. There it is.
Yes. So if you can see here, this is what we're proposing in TK 24-25. We want to bring 4 dual immersion classrooms. The following year, in kindergarten, I'm gonna go again. Yes, but if we can see in kinder, right? 25-26, we have 4 classrooms. And 26-27, that is first grade, 4 dual immersion classrooms. Second grade, 27-28. And as you can see what it's happening, right? The progression of adding 2 classrooms per year. As we increase the Spanish, we are transitioning the students that are at Jimenez in the English program. So what happens if I'm in the first grade right now and I'm not in the dual language? They get to stay, right? They get to stay until they transition out of the program. And again, if you look over here, if we're thinking about, oops, what happens in 28-29, as I want to mention again, we're thinking about the expansion or transitioning from our junior high into a middle school model, right? So doesn't mean that the program necessarily needs to stay at Jimenez. It may very well move to a different school. We are petitioning quality over quantity. We are adding 60 seats every year if it were to be approved tonight. In addition to that, we will be servicing our newcomers, our new arrivals to this country, which they are not being supported in the current design. And we will increase 2 teachers per year with a BCLAD certification. So tonight, in closing, I'm gonna read with my glasses. So I want you to imagine a school that focuses on critical consciousness, awakening individuals to a social justice, and fostering awareness that empowers people to question, analyze, and actively challenge systematic inequalities in order to contribute to positive social change. Imagine a school that transforms lives, providing individuals with avenues for personal growth and professional fulfillment, shaping a future of endless possibilities and achievement. Imagine a school that cultivates a supportive and dynamic educational environment, fostering continuous professional development, collaboration, and innovation among educators, ultimately enhancing the overall quality of education, student learning outcomes. Imagine that. It's better to go slow than fast. In order for us to make this a reality, we must have all the systems and structures in place. Thank you. And what questions do you have?
Okay, I'm going to begin. Go back to your graphic slide, if you wouldn't mind, please. That one.
This one?
This one. Okay, my first question is, next. Okay, this year is 23-24. Okay. I wasn't looking at it correctly, but you're right. I was thinking, okay, so what happens next year when you have 4 TK classes, but you wouldn't. But my other question has to do with, would it be the same lottery process to select students to enter the DLI program?
Go ahead. I'll let you start, then I'll.
We actually refined the process of the lottery. We felt as a task force, if they have a sibling in the non-dual language, we will grandfather the student without needing to go to the lottery process.
Okay, I understand that.
And
But then as we add the additional classes, how will those students be selected?
And then we're adding, if it's approved tonight, we're adding 60 seats, right? So we have priority 1. So we are allocating 60 seats. So we're adding 120 if it passes tonight. And then we'll allocate 60 seats for students within the Jimenez boundary. That is our priority 1.
And those students would automatically be enrolled in the DLI program?
They will go to the lottery. Only the ones that have a sibling at Jimenez do not need to be part of the lottery.
I'm not sure you're understanding my question.
I mean,
So
I think
once let's say you start with your transitional kinders next year and you have 4 full classes. So the following year, all of those students will move into the 4 classes in kindergarten and so forth. So for those transitional kindergarten slots for next year, okay, I understand that if a TK student has a sibling in the program, that they would automatically be entered into that TK classroom. The remainder of the spaces, will those only be offered to students within the Jimenez boundaries?
Yeah, I understand the question now. So here goes. I'm going to do my best to answer it, Linda. So 60 seats will be offered to district-wide, and 60 seats would be for the Jimenez boundary families. If it's a program of choice, right? If parents want it, it's there for them and they're going to be welcomed. If they don't want it, then there's more seats that are open for the district.
Okay, got it. That's an important piece of information for me.
And so if they don't want them, what happens? Where do those students?
And that's something
So-
that we're going to be discussing. And I know that Matt Cameron we've spoken to Matt to help us out of what can we do and how can we house those students that don't want DLI.
And we also have another process in place. Let's say we have 7 families that are incoming TK and they're not interested in the dual language. So we're going to be providing an educational night, providing all of the research, all of the data, just in case, we're able to convince them and see all the benefits in being part of a dual language. So a lot of parent education is coming up as well.
I'm going to add to the conversation. Sorry, right over here. Sorry.
I'm looking around.
Right over here at my Jula Chengbu, right here. Can we go back to the slide with the recommendation? I want to just provide some clarity. So bullet point number 1, expand the current DLI strand to a whole school DLI program. I just want to clarify that the recommendation is about expanding the strand into a whole school. It just so happened that the program currently is at Jimenez. And so we are going to start with the program that is at Jimenez because it is currently there. As everybody is aware, we have an issue with space in Santa Maria Bonita, and we are working to figure out how to pass a bond, build new schools. We have a middle school transition that we are looking at in the future. We have to deal with offering full day TK, a lot of variables that we are working with. So because the program is at Jimenez, we keep referencing DLI at Jimenez because that is where it is currently right now. But when we are able to have additional space or schools in the system, there's opportunity for us to consider different location. In one of the parent comment, they had mentioned boundaryless school at some point. That is something that we could also consider once we have a physical location where we can say, this is where the DLI program will be housed. Long-term planned, as you all know, these things don't happen tomorrow or next year or the year after that. So the recommendation really is to expand the program. It just so happened that it is at Jimenez. We are working with facilities to look at boundaries with all of the other variables that I had mentioned earlier. At some point, the reality in Santa Bonita is that we are going to have to consider boundary shifts. It is going to impact our families, even if it's not DLI, it's going to be around UTK, it's going to be around middle school transition, or if we are able to pass a bond and build 2 additional schools. Boundaries will be affected regardless, and that is a reality that we are faced with here in Santa Bonita.
Thank you. Other questions?
There'll probably be more that come up as we go along. First, to clarify, from Mia's standpoint, I asked her to say that, and she was translating from notes she wrote in English. So it wasn't like she had something written down in Spanish. I thought she did an amazing job. It was not emblematic of her mastery of either. It was actually quite a bit more difficult than had she written it out already in Spanish. So kudos to her. One of the questions I had was how exactly you're going to serve our newcomers, how this ends up being a serving our newcomers better than what we have available to us, but also in a more equitable way if since it's only on one campus.
Well, one of the things that we looked at was how can we help the newcomers? Some of our newcomers, I should say all of our children that come here are not blank slates. Some of them have formal education and some of them have been in junior highs. So one of the things that we do is we create a test. So the DLI program is a good fit for those newcomers. Then I don't see why they couldn't be in the dual language program while they're acquiring the English language, because they're still going to be getting some subject matter in their hopefully primary language, Spanish, because they do have that formal education. And at the same time, we'll be facilitating services so they could acquire the English language at a much rapid pace.
And so then that would just strictly be a boundary thing if they end up in the Jimenez boundary and they're a newcomer.
Yeah, if we have those students and there's a space available at Jimenez, I think there's no reason why we can't look to see where the students are and if somehow we could help them at the Jimenez site.
And just to expand upon what Mr. Aguilar was saying or discussing, I think, one of the things that has come up in the past is we focus on DLI. And it almost begins to feel, well, one, like we're creating an elite campus, which is problematic to me. And also, you talk about having divisive groups on one campus. Well, that also can create problems across the district or within schools or adjacent boundaries. So there are some problematic things with that, but even bigger, I think one of the things that Feliciana was trying to address is there are a number of available options to us here. Either be it one way, which you saw had an excellent trajectory as well. or a number of other programs that fall within the advice and guidance of the California EL, the roadmap. And because it's not compulsory upon us to follow that roadmap, we haven't. And so we've been really lax. And what Feliciano is trying to address is that just creating a new strand of DLI is not really being completely equitable and not fulfilling our obligation to our students as a whole. So I'm using this particular presentation because we're talking about DLI and it just ends up being Jimenez, to remind us that we have a greater obligation than just dual language immersion, that we have a lot of other students to serve, about over 16,000 that have those same needs, and they also have the same right to narrow that opportunity gap. So I'm not directing this necessarily to you, but also to everyone else, that I think I don't want to fall into a situation where we feel like we're addressing something where it's not even a Band-Aid on a cut, right? This is like one granulation tissue. That's a scientific term, but so I'm not trying to admonish you, but I'm trying to encourage us to be bigger thinking than we get caught down in a really focal way on one program. And I think there's bigger things that we can do outside of this. But I also share some of the concerns with the parents that feel like we're not quite there yet as far as having adequate staffing, adequate census of the right kinds or the students that fulfill the profile of having EOs and bilingual and non-English speakers in the cadre, right? So I think, before we jump into this next year in TK, we need to make sure that we have all those ducks in a row and we have all the qualified people. So maybe we're not necessarily there yet, but I think we need to be mindful of what those guys are bringing to light too.
And I just want to bring your attention that we do want to celebrate our students' culture and languages across our district, right? In the after-school program, it's going to look very different and very unique depending at each site and depending on the parent interest. But we are also offering a way where the students can cultivate and maintain their language and identity.
And I appreciate that, but after school is much different than something that's programmatic and sequential and integrated into their daily life for everybody. And I think that's what really is implicitly expressed in the roadmap. And it's demonstrated if you look at obviously you have, but it's demonstrated when you look and read what's going on with the roadmap and what Californians Together recommends. And so
yes.
So I appreciate the celebration of culture, but there's more that we are obliged to do.
And the EL roadmap, the California EL roadmap also does states that for any program, in order to succeed, right, they need to have a very comprehensive, roadmap ahead, and all the systems and structures in place need to be ready. So right now at Jimenez, as we know, right, the current strand does not have all the systems and structures in place. If we were to open, so we want to make sure that we have a model before they bring another program into a different site. Who are we, where is the model that we can follow? Yet, if we put all the systems and structures at Jimenez for now, because it just happened to be there, right? It just happened to be that we already have the one strand. But if we were to bring all the systems and structures and then have the California EL roadmap, right, as the lens where we need to go and really focus on principle number 2 of instruction, I think we can get there.
Thank you, Mr. Hollenstad. I would like to also add to the conversation. I appreciate the input. I was at CABE 2 weeks ago, And coming from Minnesota, learning so much about the California roadmap. So I'm excited to dig deeper. I think we have a lot of opportunities here in Santa Maria Bonita to expand. And what the recommendation tonight really is, this is the start. This is not the end. I think about my own experience in my previous districts of all the different programs that are available. I would love to see that here in Santa Maria Bonita as well. We have to start somewhere, and this is a balance of all the different initiatives, all the different 11 action items that is also, we are looking to, how do we do this in Santa Maria Bonita? And so as we prioritize, as we look to program for our schools, we understand the importance of language and culture and celebrating our students and our families here in Santa Maria Bonita. This recommendation tonight is the start. This is not the end. We will continue to explore and figure out other ways of how we can bring language into the other schools as well. In one of our slides, we talked about quality over quantity. We've also talked to other districts where they went quantity and now having to scale back. We also understand the challenges of staffing and the credentials necessary to be able to teach in the dual language program. What we have put in place here in Santa Maria Bonita with our residency program is that when our residents come out of the program fully credentialed, they will have their BCLAD to be able to teach in a DLI program as well. So we are acknowledging the challenges that we have, but also at the same time, looking at the opportunities that we do have here in Santa Maria Bonita to grow our programs. And so again, this is a start. This is not the end.
Thank you for that clarification or that additional information. I think for me, the difficulty is that when I look at the roadmap and when I talk to the people at Californians Together, it's not necessarily, and maybe I misspoke to the extent that I said it was more programmatic as rather than being also somewhat philosophical and intentional about certain parameters around teaching and recommendations and that. So it doesn't necessarily have to be rewards around achieving certain levels of competency, but it can also be around language and very simple things that can be implemented and can make a profound difference in the narrowing that gap. And so when you do dig, I'll dig deeper again too. But those are some of the simple things I think that we can really look at. It's always about equity for all our kids.
Any other questions, comments? One additional thought that I had was regarding transportation. I know that the current transportation agreement is that parents bring their students from wherever they live for the DLI program. Would that continue?
Great question, and that was also a discussion had with our committee, and the task force said, we know what the current situation is now. We would love to offer busing transportation for our students from all over Santa Maria to the DLI school, but until we hire those bus drivers, we can't do that, but we're hopeful that we are going to fill those positions, and we could look at that, and that could be something that we offer in the future.
Well, and it will happen over time. So it's not, we need everything next year. Having been here with when the DLI program began, and I participated in a lot of those meetings and looking into a variety of factors and variations. I know that over the course of the 9 years that we are reaching this year, there have been various levels of support for the program. this makes me hopeful that there will be a consistent and dedicated level of support for developing the programs so that as we can expand to other sites, we will have our own staff that has been trained that can help with training the new people. So I really, I commend those who have stuck with it because I know there have been many challenges and the results, I seem to speak for themselves in terms of accomplishments and their achievement. And I am hopeful that that will, as we expand it, that we will see those same kinds of results. But it has not been without a lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
You're absolutely correct.
So are there any other comments or questions? Yes.
Just a question on facilities. I know we've talked about before about the difficulty with the 7th and 8th graders being able to participate in sports the same way that their counterparts are on the other junior high, and now probably will be 6, 7, 8 campuses. Is there a capacity or is there any kind of plan to augment or adjust facilities to, because I don't think that you can really safely play a basketball game in the multi-purpose room there.
Well,
It would be challenging.
I'm really not sure what the plans are for the facility, so I couldn't answer that question. But we are hopeful that our students can start participating in some of these leagues that are out there, even if we piggyback and become part of the, let's say, Ariana's Junior High, they accept some of our students to play on their team to give them those type of sports opportunities. But we're hopeful that little by little, we can start doing stuff for those junior high students.
And are there any other facilities needs that you would have in expansion?
Well, currently, I think we're doing okay. Of course, as you know, we are a smaller school, so we don't have the single subject teachers. We are an elementary school, so they don't have as many of the classes, electives like we would like to have. But that's something that we've discussed as a staff, and we're hopeful that maybe soon we could come up with a system that we could offer some of that for our students as well.
Because I mean, obviously that's a consideration, right? That they have
Yeah, we
those same
considered it.
opportunities academically.
We had a plan initially and that fell through, but we're hopeful that we could all meet at the bargaining table again and come up with something that's really gonna catapult our students to compete and have those experiences like all the other junior high students.
And okay.
Well, then
Is there a motion?
if I will go ahead and move that the Board of Education approve the DLA expansion plan as presented.
And I'll second.
It has been moved by Ms. Cabral and seconded by Mr. Lara to approve the DLI expansion plan. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes. Okay, moving backwards now to,
Mrs. Cordero,
yes.
is it permissible to take a short break before what may be a lengthy?
All right, while they get everything ready, we will take a 5-minute break and I'm going to time it to the second.
I'll run like the wind.
to conclude this evening, and I know poor Mr. King. Poor Mr. King, we just love you so much. We'd like you to be nearly the last thing we get to hear. So you're on.
Well, good evening. So I will be going over second interim budget this evening. So as I referenced that first interim budget, after the district adopts the budget in June, we are required to update the budget 2 additional times during the year. So presented tonight is the second interim budget. This is the second of the 2 budget updates for the year. Per AB 1200, we're required to show that the district can meet its obligation in the current year and the 2 out years. So we'll discuss any changes in the budget since first interim, a couple milestones. We're halfway through the school year. Funding has been determined for most programs, and the governor's budget proposal has been released for next fiscal year.
Until May.
Until May, correct. So our summary of assumptions we used for second interim. So our enrollment increased by 8 to 17,162. Our estimated ADA is 16,073, and our estimated funded ADA is 16,073. The way we get funded is from our current year ADA, our prior year ADA, or a 3-year average. So now at second interim, where we are funded at our current year ADA. Moving on, looking at revenue highlights, our LCFF revenue increased $2.9 million. That's made up of $1.5 million of supplemental and concentration grant dollars, our LCAP dollars, $750,000 base grant, $300,000 grade span adjustment, $125,000 for transitional kindergarten add-on, and $300,000 for additional special education property taxes. Our expanded learning opportunities program received a additional allocation of $1.4 million for a total of $31 million. We did receive an additional literacy coach grant of $1.8 million. So 3 additional sites, Sanchez, Arianes, and Bruce, make up that $1.8 million. And our local revenue increased $270,000, and it's made up of our teacher credential grant and a student health grant we received. The COLA stayed the same, 8.22%. Expenditure highlights, the increase in the LCAP dollars. We budgeted those all to bilingual instructional aids, $1.5 million. Special education increased $400,000. That's for contracted outside services. We budget our full literacy grant, 1.8 on the expenditure side. We also have additional school maintenance projects, 1.7 million. They've been in the works, but now they're in budget. It's Alvin Field, Fesler Field, Taylor Fire Alarm, and Tunnel Carpet. We also have our playgrounds for this next summer of $3.9 million. And then I do a rebalancing budget around program needs, vacancies, subs, and extra time. So the district is required to explain to the county office the why. So what are the changes from first interim to second interim? That's what this is. Once again, our LCF revenue increased $2.9 million. It's because of our increase in our funded ADA. Other state revenue increased as a result of the literacy grant and additional ELOP dollars. So our total revenue increased by $6.7 million. Looking at the expenditure side, our expenditures did increase by 10.9. That's the result of the LCAP dollars, 1.5 for the aids, the literacy grant, special education, school maintenance projects, and the playgrounds. So at first interim, we were deficit spending $50.3 million. Now it's 54.5 for an increase in the deficit spending of $4.2 million. So moving on, looking at our second interim, the state provides 2 types of funding to California school districts, restricted and unrestricted. So the blue is the unrestricted, the green is restricted, and the last column is the total. You'll notice about 3/4 way down, the net increase or decrease in fund balance. So the unrestricted side, deficit spending of 26.7, restricted side, deficit spending of 27.8 for a total of that 54.5. So revenues, expenditures, fund balance by funding source. So throughout the school year, some students need additional services, and these additional services could come from actions services offered by the LCAP, special education, or for example, Title I. So we broke this up into 6 buckets. The blue is the unrestricted. So general fund unrestricted less LCAP. That's the bulk of our expenditures for the district. For example, pays teachers, principals, office managers, custodial, utilities. The second column there is LCAP. Total budget of $88 million for LCAP. Includes counselors, mental health access, community liaisons, vice principals, professional development. Now looking at the green section, 4 restricted buckets. We have restricted education. That's our title funds and special education. We have a restricted education recovery. Those are a lot of one-time dollars, arts, music, instructional grant, the learning recovery, and it's also the ongoing ELOP dollars. Our restricted recovery COVID, those are our one-time federal dollars, ESSER dollars. And then our restricted operations, last column there, that's for our routine restricted maintenance. So if you look all the way across, has net increase or decrease in fund balance of each of those buckets, you add all that up going across, that breaks out the deficit spending of the 54.5 a little more. So our multi-year assumptions, we do remove one-time costs and revenue. Our restricted programs are balanced and charge into our costs when allowed, and we do contribute 3% of our general fund expenditure to our routine restricted maintenance account. Down below is the COLA, didn't change at second interim, it's 8.22%. For 24-25, there is a change, so it's less than 1%, it's 0.76%. At first interim, we thought it might have been 2%, that's what we used. Back in June, when we adopted this fiscal year's budget, it was 3.94. So it's continually been going down. You'll notice our ADA and funded ADA at second interim and the out years, the funded ADA is matching our ADA. So we'll be funded for current year ADA. Looking at our multi-year projections, once again, we remove our one-time COVID dollars on the revenue and expenditure side in 24-25. The LCFF revenue growth does slow in 24-25. There's not a large increase from the prior year, but we do see another bump up there in 25-26 for LCFF revenue. On the expenditure side, it does have step and column, and we do apply a COLA to the expenditures there. So down below, the deficit spending in 24-25 is 14.7, and then at 25-26, it is 1.3 million. So fund balance in excess of minimum reserve. So this form is required by the state. And basically, what we have to do is, if we have any fund balance greater than 3%, then we have to state that we do, and state the dollar amount over the 3%, and then substantiate why you have any fund balance greater than 3%. So we'll just look at 23-24. After taking out the 3% reserve requirement, we have a remaining any fund balance, remaining balance that needs to be substantiated of $19 million. And then down below are the 2 reasons why a set aside for COP debt service payments and a set aside for TK implementation. So, and finally, what's new, what's next? We just rolled out a budget infograph in English and Spanish, and it's posted on our website. There's I did include a few pages of it. And I'd like to recognize Sasha Hernandez. She's the district's digital media specialist. With her expertise, her and I together were able to create this in-house infographic. It could not have happened without her, so I want to thank Sasha for that. We hope this infographic makes it easier to understand the district's financial position. And then, as Linda mentioned, middle of May, the May revise, and when the May revise comes out, we must use that information to create our 24-25 adoption budget. So with that, I can answer any questions.
I don't have a question. I do have a comment. We seem to look pretty darn healthy considering all of the information that comes out through CSEA or CSBA, I'm sorry, districts that are going to really, really be struggling. So thank you to our budget services for managing us so well.
One thing to highlight with that is, plan alignment, made a conscious effort not to use one-time dollars in ongoing salaries. So once those, a lot of districts, those one-time dollars are ending and they're trying to figure out what they're going to do. So we didn't go that route.
Right.
Yeah.
I do know that, once those dollars are gone, we will need to either find some additional funding sources or the reality will smack us in the face at some point that we have reduced revenues. But looks very good right now. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you kind of just answered this, Brian, but when you were showing the 24, 25, just the large decrease in expenditures there, it looks like on services and other operating expenses. Is that reflective of you and Dr. Humphrey working together to and the program alignment to
Yes. So
see where we could?
Yeah, we're basically budgeting all those, we, over the last 4 years, we received 90 million of COVID dollars. So now we have 35-40 million still left to spend. And it's all budgeted in 23-24. So in 24-25, we don't have that revenue coming in, but we don't have the expenditure either.
Yeah, and I asked the question, but I also wanted to compliment you and Dr. Humphrey and the plan alignment group for really, I think, an ongoing effort from well before now to identify those things that when this happened, we were going to continue to provide so that, somebody doesn't look at this and see that and say, oh, it's reflective of us not offering things that our students need, right? You guys have, I think, been really thoughtful in those, not just the projection, but how that was going to align. And I appreciate that. And I just wanted to express that on behalf of the board.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holland. I want to provide just a little focus on exactly what you're describing. If you look at the certificated salary lines, classified salary lines, and the employee benefit lines across those 3 years, the numbers are very consistent, even though that total disbursements number drops by a lot. To your point, in year 2, the point that everyone has made about spending one-time dollars on one-time things is shown on the books and supplies line and the capital outlay line. You look at those numbers in 23-24, they're very large and they decrease by a lot in the next year, right? So as we're needing to make choices going forward, that's where you see the impact of those choices. So I just wanted to make sure and point that out.
Any other questions or comments? I'd entertain a motion.
All right. Where are we? I'll go ahead and recommend the Board of Education issue a positive certification for the 2023-24 second interim report and certify to the Santa Barbara County Superintendent of Schools that the Santa Maria Bonita School District will be able to meet its financial obligations for the 2023-24, 2024-25, and 2025-26 years as presented.
Second.
It has been moved by Ms. Cabral and seconded by Mr. Hollinshead to issue a positive certification of the 2023-24 second interim report and to certify that the Santa Barbara County Superintendent of Schools that the Santa Maria Bonita School District will be able to meet its financial obligations for the 2023-24, 24-25, and 25-26 school years as presented. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Motion
you.
carries. We moving on to item 11B. I saw you get up and walk over there. I just expected you to speak.
Many times. That's exactly what I end up doing.
Mr. Beecher will
Yes.
be presenting the new agreement with Oric, Harrington, and Sutcliffe LLP to provide bond counsel and disclosure counsel for a potential general obligation bond. Mr. Beecher.
Thank you, Ms. Cordero, for that introduction. I do have a one sheet, one slide presentation for you tonight on this agreement. If you read into the details of what's written here, it does define what a bond counsel does. It does define what disclosure counsel does. Either way, what they make sure occurs is that should the school board elect to direct staff to put a general obligation bond on the ballot for November of 2024, ORIC, if approved, would make certain that those documents all comply with the requirements of the elections process and those regulations, and then also make sure that the financing instruments all comply with the requirements of the IRS for tax exempt financing. ORIC is an excellent firm to work with. We've worked with them multiple times over the last 19 years that I've been here. And also on this slide, you'll see in the green print, they did help write the law, so they know it very well. They also wrote the book, the XYZs of school district debt financing. It's an excellent book. I have it in my office. I shared it with you in a link. If you were curious, you could absolutely read every chapter and learn all the details of debt financing for school districts. But I wouldn't expect you to. As a governance team, you don't need that kind of granular detail. But if you're curious, they're an amazing group. We have worked with two of the three authors of this book. John Hartenstein, the late John Hartenstein, when we first met ORIC, and then now with Don Field. He's excellent. So I would ask for your consideration and approval of this agreement to work with them. And I should say, what's also important is that their services will be paid for out of the proceeds from the bond. The school board won't be writing a check to ORIC for this work.
Did we work with them on our last bond?
Yes, we've worked with ORIC on the Measure T. We worked with ORIC on all of our certificates of participation since at least 2006, and all of those tax exempt financing and refinancings that we've done. ORIC has been our partner on the legal side.
Thank you.
John Barrissey is an underwriter, and so he had worked with Stiefel, Raymond James, and now he's with Baird, but he works on the underwriter side. So he's more of the market maker, where Don Field is kind of the behind the scenes. The staff at ORIC is unbelievably dedicated. some of the times and places that I received emails from their staff to make sure that our documents were progressing on time. We've had some pretty tight timelines in the past. They've always been able to deliver very high quality people. So
Any other questions or comments? I would entertain a motion, please.
I'll move to approve the agreement with Orrick, Harrington, and Sutcliffe LLP to provide bond counsel and disclosure counsel for a potential general obligation bond as presented.
I'll second.
It has been moved by, I just went blank. John?
Me, yeah.
Yes.
That John guy.
And Mr. Laura, that the Board of Education approve the agreement with Orrick, Harrington, and Sutcliffe LLP to provide bond counsel and disclosure counsel for a potential general obligation bond. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
thank you.
Moving on, we have no discussion items this evening. Is there any new business? Any board reports?
Indeed. Just want to acknowledge having gone to my adoptive homeschool, Bill Libin, last Friday for Read Across America. Read to a couple of classes there. It's been a really fun, enjoyable 2 hours with first a fifth grade class and then a kindergarten class. So I got all kinds of viewpoints and input. But yeah, it was just it's always a wonderful day. I mean, the thing that always I guess it shouldn't surprise me, but it does, is that the fifth graders are usually, it takes them a minute, but then they're just as engaged as the kindergartners are, and they're just as inquisitive and just as participatory as the kindergartners. And so they were really, really fun. And Ms. Schoenfeld's an excellent, excellent teacher. Man, are we lucky. And that Lath Hours lady, she's okay too. That's my daughter. But that was really enjoyable. I wanted to recommend, if people have the capacity to do so, to go to PCPA and see Wolf at the Door. It's an excellent play that is reflective of a story that's based on some Mexican lore, I believe. And the playwright had written another play that they'd performed a couple of years ago in the Black Box in Severson that was very good also, but this is especially well acted. And as is usually the case, the sets and everything are amazing. But I think it's also it's a good time for an hour and a half. There's no intermission, so make sure you're
And
prepared.
can you say the same thing about Henry V?
Wolf at the Door was really, no, I just kidding. Yeah, it was Henry V. Henry V was a whole different experience.
Yes.
It's quite lengthy, but it was also very well done. Different objective.
Yes.
But yeah, and I want to thank the DLI group. I know that I made some comments that were aspirational maybe, and I don't want those, and I don't want those to be construed by them and all the people that did the hard work and their collaboration as not acknowledging that hard work that they did. There are a lot of things that are going to go into that, and I know that Ms. Lo Chong-woo and Ms. Mosqueda and the parents are making all those tough decisions and also collaborating really in the best interests of the students that we are able to reach there. And so I appreciate that. And again, I also want to, I want to thank Matt and Dr. Humphrey and Mr. King and those folks who are really making some other tough decisions that we don't necessarily always see, right? Those are the things that happen that keep us solvent, keep us doing the things we do, and keep us doing them effectively and prudently. And you guys make our jobs easier, as our fiduciary job easier in trying to guide the finances of the district. And I don't want to undersell the plan and plan alignment part of that, because I think, that's one of the things that, because we don't do LCAP in the same way that we used to, where there's a lot of open discussion about maybe not minutia, but some fine kind of really fine tuning and things like that. We don't get into the sticks or into the weeds with that stuff. That's still going on, right? There's with one-time dollars going away, we've identified the things that work well, and we're doing well for our students. So I appreciate that, and I wanted to express that to you guys about that too. And not unnoticed from our standpoint on the board. And I think that's about it.
How's the new baby, Mr. Lara?
Thought she was asking about my baby.
No, it's wonderful. It's more than wonderful,
Yeah.
My grandbaby went to Bill Libin today to see her mom
Oh, nice. All right.
after she was done. Not on our time.
You drop
it off, Okay.
what you're saying.
After she spent the day with us.
Ms. Cabral? Okay. Well, all I have to say also is Read Across America is always a really, really fun day. And every year when I go, whoever does the scheduling, I tell them, you have to give me at least a half an hour. At least a half an hour. I cannot read a story and do my thing in less than half an hour. There's just still too much teacher left in me, and I absolutely cannot fit it into 15 minutes. So anyway, I had a great time. The kids were wonderful, and Fairlawn did their Read Across America Day on Monday, so I was honored to go there and read as well. And it's always very enjoyable, and I tell them all the time, anytime you want a guest reader, you can reach me through the district email. That's honestly one of my favorite things to do. Dr. McDuffie.
Thank you. This will be very brief. As many of you know, we had two board meetings in a row, kind of threw off myself, my staff, board members as well. But I appreciate it. Next week, I'll be attending a annual conference in San Diego, the California Association of African American Superintendents and Administrators. Participated in this conference year in and year out for about 10 years. And I've always found it to be valuable in terms of research, achieving equity for students of color, strategies for the students we serve. So I look forward to that and look forward to bringing some of those ideas and information back to home here in Santa Maria Bonita. I just want to end by talking about one of our beliefs tonight, and that is we believe every person has the power to take action and make a positive impact. That's from our board members here, from the dais. It's from our students talking about DLI. It's from our El Camino teachers who speak passionately about their community and their school. It's about all the people here in this room doing the work that you're doing. I really appreciate that. And as we look at our beliefs, we need to continue to talk about that what we do matters. The actions that we take matters. And those actions should be pointed toward making a positive impact. So thank you, and I appreciate it.
Can I say something real quick?
Yes, you may.
I want to just say real quick that we have 4 birthdays up here, starting here with March 13th, March 15th, and Miss Cordero and Dr. McDuffie on the 19th. So I just want to wish you guys all a happy birthday. Well, besides your spouse and my spouse are in March, so happy birthday.
Happy birthday. But we're not all Pisces. Well, yes, actually we are. We are. Okay. I will accept seniority in that avenue. I should be grateful that I still have a sense of humor. We do have a special board meeting planned for Saturday, March 16th, right here at the Sousa Center. I believe we are starting at 9 a.m.
The agenda will be out next week, probably 9 o'clock.
Okay. And then our next regularly scheduled board meeting will be on Wednesday, March 20th. And for those of you like me that put things on your calendar based on a pattern of meeting on the 2nd and 4th Wednesday of the month, it screws everything up. There being no further business, is there a motion to adjourn?